2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
The paper had small tweaks now and then, but really hasn't changed a lot. Eisenhower thought that having a space program would help the US have a clear. NASA was also created because of the tension of the Cold War between the Russians and the launching of Sputnik. Space shuttles were designed to help transform the space frontiers of the 1970s into familiar territory, easily accessible for human endeavor in the 1990s, and Kirsty McAuliffe was the winner of the Teacher in Space program. She was picked from over 11,000 candidates. Our progress in space, taking giant steps for all mankind, is a tribute to American teamwork and excellence. Our finest mind in government, industry, and academia all have pulled together, and we can be proud to say we are first, we are the best, and we're so because we're free. President Reagan. Born in 1959, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration Program, or NASA, was established by President Eisenhower. The draft legislation was signed on April 2nd by Eisenhower and was ratified on July 29th. The paper had small tweaks now and then, but really hasn't changed a lot. Eisenhower thought that having a space program would help the US have a clear view of the universe. NASA was also created because of the tension of the Cold War between the Russians and the launching of Sputnik. Statement makes clear the opportunity which a developing space technology can provide to extensive knowledge of the Earth, the solar system, and the universe. President Eisenhower. Space shuttles were designed to help transform the space frontiers of the 1970s into familiar territory, easily accessible for human endeavor in the 1990s and 90s. Richard Nixon. STS-6 was the first flight of the Challenger and successfully sent the first tracking and data relay satellite into space. The flight launched on April 4th and came back to Earth on April 9th, 1963. John Early thought that before space shuttles, NASA was spending too much money because the shuttles they used were not reusable, but now with space shuttles they will not have to spend as much money. Also, in the newspapers, the Billings Gazette stated that space shuttles were key to America's future in space. Challenger's second flight, STS-7, was to send two satellites into space, NX-C2 and Polypa B1. Several major accomplishments were that one of the crew members, Sally Ride, was the first female American in space. Also, they met with the German shuttle pilot, and Paulette took the first full picture of a space shuttle in space. Endeavour was NASA's first space shuttle and was first publicly released on September 12, 1976. I think it's safe or else we won't be doing it. Astronaut John Young.
Today I'm directing NASA to begin a search in all of our elementary and secondary schools and to choose as the first citizen passenger in the history of our space program, one of America's finest, a teacher.
In fact, I predicted Barbara Morgan would win and Kirsty McAuliffe would come in second. Bill Horwood. Kirsty McAuliffe was the winner of the Teacher in Space program. She was picked from over 11,000 candidates. The process was that each state picked two candidates to go to the next stage of testing out of their bunch. Then the candidates went to the next stage of testing about different aspects of space at DC. Then they chose 10 candidates to go to Texas to do physical exam. After the testing was done, several NASA veterans met up to do more interview. In the end, NASA decided to pick 36-year-old Kirsty McAuliffe and Barbara Morgan as backup. Kirsty McAuliffe, Francis Scobie, Michael Smith, Alison Onozuka, Judith Resnick, Ronald McNair, and Gregory Jervis were the crew of ST-151L. ST-151L was supposed to launch the second tracking and data relay satellite, the Spartan Haley spacecraft. The satellite, which job was to take pictures of Halley's comet as close as spot to the sun. The mission was originally on January 22nd, but was delayed due to the cold weather. But finally, it was delayed until 11:38 a.m. on January 28th. The night of the launch, a regular skull glided through Florida. Everything seemed good until mission control asked Scobie to go throttle up, but the shuttle exploded 73 seconds after liftoff, killing the whole crew at 46,000 feet of elevation.
Shuttle mission is now on the way after more delays than NASA cares to count. This morning, it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
1 minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
It's like getting a message your whole family was killed. Pearson. This occurs every day of the week, but when it occurs before your eyes, it is so much more difficult to accept. Metzenbaum. One of the immediate reactions after the shuttle exploded was that NASA was punished and on a non-permanent shutdown. Then President Reagan created the Roger Commission. The Roger Commission's job was to find the cause of the explosion, and it included Neil Armstrong and Sally Ride, test pilot Chuck Yeager, and physicist Richard Feynman. The commission later found out that the space shuttle exploded due to the failure of O-ring. It was decided that around 59 seconds, an 8-foot flame emerged from the hole, then grew to be 40 feet. The flame eroded one of the 3 struts. When all 3 struts broke, the base of the booster trolled through the external fuel tank, causing the tank to collapse and exploding the engine. The Roger Commission also found out that NASA was aware of the potential failures of O-ring. NASA launch directors recently told the Presidential Commission investigating the Challenger accident that they are not aware the solar rocket's O-ring were a potential flight risk the day the Challenger was launched, Reno Gazette. Several engineers, such as Bob Ebling, had warned NASA about the possible failure of O-ring in a teleconference. But instead, Lawrence Mueller said, "When do you want me to launch? Next April?" Even though the data was clear, politics and pressure made them continue. The Challenger's going to blow up. Everyone's going to die. Bob Ebling. One of the many long-term impacts that followed the explosion of the Challenger disaster were the many funds. For example, the Associated Press kids asked kids and their parents for pennies and dollars to rebuild another space shuttle. The school district of Bath, New York, also raising pennies to build another shuttle. Pennies for Space rebuilds the spirit. Barbara Morgan is a teacher in space program, and she got to be in the semi-finalists and finalists. She didn't get paid to be the first teacher in space, but she got to be the backup if McAuliffe couldn't go. Almost 21 years after reading and tragedy of her own, such as the Columbia disaster, she went up with a crew of STS-118 and successfully did her mission. Another important impact was the construction of the ISS. The ISS was built with 37 space shuttles flight, pressurized modules, and other things. There's about 159 spacewalk from 1998 to 2011 to help build the station. The ISS is helping the world by doing things such as helping water purification worldwide, improving eye surgery, improving vaccines, and monitoring water quality and natural disasters from space. We are floating here on the shoulders of giants. This space station is a pinnacle of human achievement in international cooperation. Greg Chemitov. The space race has begun. Multiple missions have been sent up to space. Following Challenger's 9th flight to space, NASA decided to send up a teacher in space through the Teacher in Space program, but the Challenger exploded 73 seconds after liftoff due to the lack of communication between flight directors and engineers. The explosion influenced NASA in many ways, including the Roger Commission, many fundings, the ISS, and Barbara Morgan on STS-118. Even though NASA did have some up and down, it led the Earth where no one had gone before. Christian McAuliffe's legacy is open-ended. Every teacher's legacy is open-ended. I know people will be looking at this and remembering Challenger, and that's a good thing. They will also be thinking about all the people, teachers and other people, who have been working really hard and will continue working really hard to carry on the work that Christian was doing. Barbara Morgan.